I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents. Some local school principals spent a day getting an education of their own.
God created all things, and through the talents that He gives to man, we can engage the world in many ways to make it better.
We go into the deep with Bishop DiMarzio to discuss helping the stranger among us.
Every person needs to have some status in a society. Unfortunately, many of these people came here without any status.
And no, it's not a marathon. New Yorkers exercise their voices in a sing-a-thon. Well, good evening and thank you for joining us. Matt McClure has the night off. The warm weather will soon be here to stay, and already kids would rather not be in school. But yesterday in Corona, Queens, it was local Catholic school principals who got an education with a unique lesson in science and faith.
Now, we're here at the New York Hall of Science, and they graciously opened the doors to all of our principals of the elementary schools and high schools. 4 times a year, the Diocese of Brooklyn has Principal Professional Development Days, and that's where we gather as a community, all the principals, and we try to, as we say to our children, become lifelong learners. And today, the topic is science and religion, because of course, all of our schools are infused with a religious background. But really, from the beginning, we've always had science as a part of our core curriculum.
In some Catholic educators, there's sort of an ingrained hostility, a concern about science. What kind of science are you teaching? How is this science going to affect my students' view of the church? And here are some news reports of Benedict's remarks a couple of years ago to a group of journalists. And what he said was the contrast, the conflict between creation and evolution is an absurdity. And this is the Pope speaking, because there are many scientific tests in favor of evolution which enriches our understanding of life and being. Well, when I want somebody to simplify complex language, what I do, of course, is to go to the real authority, that's the New York Post. Evolution and God do mix, Pope.
I think it's particularly important right now in this country to think about science education for a couple of reasons. We're confronted by a whole host of challenges, from medical care to our energy future, all of which have scientific components to their solution. The United States has been, for most of the 20th century and still is in the 21st, the leading scientific nation in the world. And I think we can maintain that position, but we shouldn't take it for granted. We have to regenerate the scientific community every year in our public, private, and parochial schools. The parochial school principals I spoke to today were enormously receptive of the message that science education matters, that it's important to start it in the early grades to get kids turned on and enthused about science, and they're clearly going to be good partners in that effort.
We worked at diffraction of light, and we used a spectroscope, and we used 3D glasses. We made them ourselves. It was very exciting as adults. I can imagine young minds just exploring light for the first time. God created all things, and through the talents that He gives to man, we can engage the world in many ways to make it better.
I was able to put concretely together more so the spiritual, the foundation of faith, together with science and scientific inquiry, discovery.
And it was very exciting. I had a good morning. I can imagine children being here having a good morning also. Wonderful, wonderful experience. I think it helps you to remember your basic job is to help children discover the world around them and how faith and science can work together.
Well, it sure looks like those principals had a lot of fun and really learned something in the process as well. Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we return, we'll have the day's headlines, including an unlikely bar hop. We'll tell you what it's all about. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up just a bit later, New Yorkers give their voices a workout at a marathon singing event. We're going to take you there, but first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. At the cathedral in Krakow, plans are underway for this weekend's funeral of Poland's president, but a cloud is now casting a shadow over the event. quite literally. An eruption of ash from a volcano in Iceland is making air travel to Europe all but impossible and could force a change in plans. We get more now from CNN's Frederick Pleitgen in Warsaw.
The one thing that people are looking to is Sunday, which of course is going to be the state burial of the late President Lech Kaczynski, who was killed in a plane crash last Saturday. And the big question is, are the VIPs who want to come going to be able to come here, or are they going to have to postpone this because of the delay, because of the ash cloud? Of course, Barack Obama was going to come, Nicolas Sarkozy was going to come, Prince Charles was going to come. All the areas that are affected could pose a problem. Now, we're getting mixed messages from the Polish government. At first, they said they were thinking of perhaps postponing the state funeral. Then, however, they backtracked and said they will do everything they can not to postpone the funeral. They don't want to do this. Now, one of the things that we have here is a scene that you'll probably have in many other countries that are affected by this. People are doing everything they can to try and get to the next airport somewhere in Europe. I caught up with a group from America that's stranded here, and right now they're looking for ways to get into European cities that might have an open airport. Let's just look at what they were trying to do.
So one option is Vienna by train, stay in Vienna and try to hook up whatever flight will go to America. That's one option. The other option is to take a train to Berlin and then hook up to Frankfurt, and that is exactly 10 hours with one change, and then wait at the Frankfurt airport and hope that you can connect with another flight to North America.
We actually did our boarding last night, and we had our boarding cards, and when we got to the gate, they told us that the flight was canceled, and we had to go get our luggage, go down, get our luggage, and go back.
Now, look, they were talking about taking trains to try and get out of here. Well, we've been at the train station, and it's absolutely impossible. There's a 4-hour wait at Warsaw train station just to even try and get a ticket for one of these jam-packed trains, and the waiting time to get a rental car is about 5 hours right now. That's the situation in Poland.
And as that reporter mentioned, one of those scheduled to attend the funeral is President Obama. And back in the U.S. yesterday, President Obama ordered the Department of Health and Human Services to draw up new regulations for hospital and visitation rights. In a memo, the president wrote that gays and lesbians are uniquely affected by current law. Obama also pointed out that members of religious orders are not always able to choose an immediate relative to visit them and to make medical decisions for them. The president says he will still recognize a National Day of Prayer, even though a federal judge in Wisconsin has ruled it unconstitutional. The judge wrote that the government cannot use its authority to try to influence a person's decision to pray. A spokesman for Obama says the president still plans to issue a proclamation for the next Day of Prayer, which will happen on May 6th. In Germany, a bishop from the Society of St. Pius X has been convicted for denying the Holocaust. Bishop Richard Williamson was ordered to pay a fine of more than $13,000. In a television interview in 2008, Williamson said that he did not believe Jews were killed in gas chambers during World War II. And happy birthday to Pope Benedict. He celebrated his 83rd birthday today by taking it easy at the Vatican ahead of his trip to Malta this weekend. Rome Reports has a look back at Benedict's life.
Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger was born in Bavaria, Germany on April 16, 1927, and was baptized the same day. At age 5, he met the Cardinal of Munich. He was impressed by the clothing, and that's when he said when he was older he wanted to become a painter or a cardinal. When he was 12 years old, he entered the Freising Seminary in Munich, but his studies were interrupted when he was drafted into the German Anti-Aircraft Corps during the last months of World War II. After the war ended, Joseph returned to the seminary, and on June 29, 1951, he was ordained a priest. He was a professor of theology in universities in Bonn, Munster, Tübingen, and Regensburg. In 1977, Paul VI asked Joseph Ratzinger to give up the classroom and named him Archbishop of Munich. Months later, he became a cardinal. In 1978, he took part in both conclaves that erected Pope John Paul I and Pope John Paul II. John Paul II elected him prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith and was later named Cardinal Bishop. At age 78, he was elected Bishop of Rome by the papal conclave that took place on April 19, 2005.
Happy birthday there. And the Archbishop of Malta prepared his country for the Pope's visit next weekend, or this coming weekend, by going bar hopping. Archbishop Paul Cremona went out to local bars to let people know that the Pope was coming. Cremona joked with patrons and occasionally had a drink, but also he spoke to them about some more serious themes. Stay tuned, there's more currents coming up. Just ahead, the talk about reform turns to immigration as we go into the deep with Bishop DiMarzio.
This is an important issue, that it's something that can't wait and should be done in a reasonable way with some reasonable policies.
Welcome back. Well, this is Immigration Heritage Week in New York City, when people all around the area are celebrating their roots. It's also an opportunity to take a closer look at immigration reform, and that's a subject that has become a priority of the worldwide church. Not long ago, the bishops of the United States and Mexico issued a landmark pastoral letter on the issue, calling for widespread changes in the current system. And recently, Matt and I sat down to talk about immigration reform with Bishop DiMarzio, and that is the subject of tonight's Into the Deep. Bishop DiMarzio, thank you so much for being with us again today on Currents.
Good.
We're talking about immigration reform. Where does it fit into Catholic social teaching?
Well, immigration reform is something that we were interested in as Catholics because it fits into how we understand the dignity of the human person. All Catholic social teaching is based on the dignity of the human person, the principle of subsidiarity and solidarity, you know, the big words, but basically we're starting with the person. We've got to respect every person. And immigration reform is necessary today because persons are not being respected. First, we have many, many people in our country that are undocumented, who are working, and again, they're here because they've been drawn by work. And not to give workers their rights and not to regularize them is something that goes against human dignity. When we talk about the other issues that affect them, recognizing that every person needs to have some status in a society. Now, unfortunately, many of these people came here without any status. They were drawn by work. And now they have no way of accessing the good things of our society. They contribute their work and they live in houses and pay rent. Some of them even buy houses. They contribute, they pay their taxes, contrary to what the myths around immigration are about. The other thing that's very important with the human dignity is that we have families separated yes. Sometimes across national boundaries because they can't come, other times because the waiting lines in the legal system are so long. So those are two main concerns we have. Workers' rights and family unity are two key things why we are interested in it.
Right, and you've talked about there, you know, some of the ways that the system is broken currently. What needs to be done, and how do we go about getting it fixed?
Well, it's not an easy task because, first of all, public opinion really dictates quite a bit of how the legislators think about immigration reform. I think, especially in light of the very difficult fight on health care, most legislators would rather not have another fight after this, even though they think it's important. So it's important, again, for Catholics to let the legislators know that they think this is an important issue, that it's something that can't wait and should be done in a reasonable way with some reasonable policies. So it's key to understanding we're looking for justice. There is a Justice for Immigrants program that the U.S. bishops sponsor, and you can have a website, justiceforimmigrants.org. And this gives you all of the current proposals. It gives you also the opportunity to send letters or emails to your legislators. It's very good, worth really putting on your favorites on your computer. It's free, and it does keep you updated. So we want people to be involved because Only in that way will we get good change.
So bookmark that, justiceforimmigrants.org. Okay,
Right.
we can look at that one. There's also, as far as statistically speaking, 12 million undocumented workers here in the United States. And I was reading, I think it was U.S. Catholic Magazine yesterday, there was an article about immigration reform in it, and it said it would take 48 years to make everyone legally documented, if that were possible. That being said, I don't know if that's true or not per se, but it just seems like it's quite a long time.
Well, maybe if everybody was put into the legal system and they'd have to wait that amount of time. But we do have what was done in 1986 called legalization, where the people who are here in undocumented status were legalized. Some people confuse that with the word amnesty, which raises all kinds of cockles in everybody's minds, but it's not really amnesty, because legalization is a process. It's a costly process. It's a process where those who have been working here have to make sure they paid their taxes, put their dues in our society. So the legalization system is very important, because if we say we have 12 million undocumented people in our country, what kind of national security do we have? We don't know who they are. They've never been counted. We don't know how they're going to work out in the census. So really it's important that we regularize the situation, and perhaps, as some of the proposals now are saying, come up with a tamper-proof work identity card, which is important to take care of the labor market, but also to deal with security issues.
Okay.
Okay, well, very good. Now, one last very quick question here. I mean, we just passed the health reform bill through Congress. President Obama signed it. He signed the executive order, as we talked about in our last conversation with you, dealing with the abortion thing. So there's been this big political fight to get that done. Do you think that the political will after this is there to get immigration reform done now?
I think only if they hear from the constituents, because it's not going to be easy. And I think, again, there's some battle wounds and scars that are not going to heal very quickly. But I think if there is a groundswell, now several weeks ago there was a major rally in Washington, 500,000 people were down there on a Sunday that were demonstrating for immigration reform. Those are the kind of things I think that speak to the need, and also speak to the legislators that this is something that can't wait.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bishop DiMarzio, for being with us talking about immigration reform today.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
And that is Bishop DiMarzio on immigration reform. You can always find out more from the bishop and his weekly column in the Tablet, Putting Out into the Deep. Just visit thetablet.org. We'll be right back. When we return, it's a 6-hour marathon of song, all for a good cause.
We're going to sing some music that we will be singing in Rome, which is the whole purpose of this event tonight, is a sing-a-thon to raise funds for our trip to Rome.
Finally tonight, we leave you with some people making a joyful noise, and hopefully they're making a little money too. It's the choir from St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan. Last night they staged a sing-a-thon at the cathedral. It's a fundraiser for an upcoming trip to Rome, where they'll be singing at a prestigious sacred music festival. We stopped by to lend an ear.
We have a 6-hour concert. This is the first time we've ever done something this long, and we're going to have music from the entire choir is going to sing, music from the Renaissance all the way to the present, Gregorian chant to contemporary. In addition, we're going to sing some music that we will be singing in Rome, which is the whole purpose of this event tonight, is a sing-a-thon to raise funds for our trip to Rome. Any choir can basically go to Rome and perform at the Vatican if they pass the audition, so to speak. But this is different in that we have been asked to come specifically for a festival that not just any choir can get into.
I can't imagine what it's like singing at St. Peter's. I just can't imagine what it's like. It's just, it's the center of Catholicism, and it's magnificent. And it looks like it was built yesterday because it's so in amazing condition, and it's just glorious. It's absolutely glorious. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be really, really amazing, and an honor.
We are here for a reason as a cathedral. We are here for the worship of God. And one of the things that helps us to worship God is our choir.
If you attend a Mass that has no music, it's just kind of plain. When you add sacred music to the Mass, it really elevates the spirit. It helps people to pray more. It gives liturgy and Mass a very heightened sense of strength and power, and gives people faith just by hearing words that normally could be spoken elevated with song.
You do think about being praying to God. You think about the fact that there's a congregation here listening to you, and you want to satisfy their need for prayer. You are focused. You have to be focused because it's challenging music, and you want to sing, well for the congregation. But because of the context, and a lot of the text is something from the Bible, the Psalms, the Gospel, you can't help but be praying and being mindful of what's being said. St. Augustine said, those who sing pray twice, or those who sing well pray twice. I think there's a little discrepancy as to exactly what he said, but I think you do. You really, really do.
Wow, they really sound terrific. What a treat right there. Hopefully they did raise a lot of money for their trip to Rome. Well, that is it for tonight. Remember, we are always online at currentsny.net, and you can follow us on Twitter. You can also become our fan on Facebook as well. Until next time, I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night and a great weekend.